Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back at I/O. At Google, the past year has given renewed purpose to our mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. We continue to approach that mission with a singular goal: building a more helpful Google for everyone.
For over a decade, we've been pushing documents toward collaborative, linked content inspired by the web. Smart Canvas is our next big step. And this fall, we're excited to bring Meet directly into docs, sheets, and slides for the first time.
Today, I'm excited to share our latest breakthrough in natural language understanding, Lambda. It's a language model for dialogue applications. Natural conversations are generative, and they never take the same path twice. Lambda is able to carry a conversation no matter what we talk about. Let's see what happened when we talk to a paper airplane.
What's the worst place you've ever landed?
That would have to be in a puddle. I was just barely still intact, so I was stuck there for a few minutes. It was quite annoying.
But it is still trained only on text. So we need to build models that allow people to naturally ask questions across different types of information. These are called multimodal models. For example, when you say, "Show me the part where the lion roars at sunset," we will get you to that exact moment in a video. 2 years ago at I/O, I announced Auto Delete. We've since made Auto Delete the default for all new Google accounts. Now, after 18 months, we automatically delete your activity data, and this is now active for over 2 billion accounts.
We want to free everyone from password pain. Password alerts will let you know if we detect any of your saved passwords have become compromised in a third-party breach. And a quick fix feature in Chrome. The assistant will help you navigate directly to your compromised accounts and change your passwords in seconds.
Today, I'm excited to announce the TPU V4. A single V4 pod contains 4,096 V4 chips, and each pod has 10x the interconnect bandwidth per chip at scale compared to any other networking technology. Achieving our quantum milestone was a tremendous accomplishment, but we are still at the very beginning of a multi-year journey. We hope to one day create an error-corrected quantum computer. And success could mean everything from increasing battery efficiency to creating more sustainable energy to improved drug discovery and so much more.
You might ask, I've hiked Mount Adams, now want to hike Mount Fuji next fall. What should I do differently to prepare? But search engines today can't answer it directly because it's so conversational and nuanced. MUM is changing the game. With its language understanding capabilities, it's highlighting that Mount Fuji is roughly the same elevation as Mount Adams. But fall is the rainy season in Mount Fuji, so you might need a waterproof jacket.
You gotta scan the floor. So let's scan the area. Ooh, and she's here. Ah. She goes for the triple-double. This is very accurate. Nails it.
Around the world, people use Lens to translate over 1 billion words every day. So now, we're rolling out a new capability that combines visual translation with educational content from the web. For instance, you can easily snap a photo of a science problem, and Lens will provide learning resources in your preferred language.
Advances in AI are helping us reimagine what a map can be. This year alone, we're on track to release more than 100 AI-driven improvements. We're adding prominent virtual street signs to help you navigate complex intersections. We're bringing it indoors to help you get around some of the hardest to navigate buildings.
Google Maps will soon give you the option to take the most fuel-efficient route. At scale, this has potential to significantly reduce emissions and fuel consumption.
More than 1 billion times a day, people are shopping across Google. Shopping inspiration often strikes when we see something we like in the world around us. When you view any screenshots in Google Photos, there'll be a suggestion to search the photo with Lens. You'll see organic search results that can help you find that pair of shoes or browse similar styles.
Today, there are more than 4 trillion photos and videos stored in Google Photos. Soon, we're launching Little Patterns. Little Patterns show the magic in everyday moments by identifying not so obvious patterns in the photos you take and resurfacing them to you.
Beauty is personal. To face this challenge, we imagined Material You, a new design that includes you as a co-creator, letting you transform the look and feel of all your apps.
Just this week, we crossed an amazing milestone. There are now 3 billion active Android devices around the world. So let's start by taking a look at our new UI for Android. We've overhauled everything, revamping the way we use color, shapes, light, and motion, inspired by Material You. We've got something new planned for Google Pixel, using what we call color extraction. The system creates a custom palette based on the colors in my photo. The result is a one-of-a-kind design, just for you. Samsung and Google have a long history of collaborating, and now we're combining the best of our 2 operating systems into a unified platform focused on faster performance, longer battery life, and a thriving developer community. To make smartphone photography truly for everyone, we've been working with a group of industry experts to build a more accurate and inclusive camera. We're making auto white balance adjustments and algorithmically reducing stray light to bring out natural brown tones and prevent the over-brightening and desaturation of darker skin tones.
We've been working to make mammography better. And now we're collaborating with Northwestern Medicine on an investigative device research study to better understand how AI can apply to the breast cancer screening process. Technology can and should help close the equity gap.
We were all grateful to have video conferencing over the last year, but there is no substitute for being together in the room with someone. So several years ago, we kicked off a project to use technology to explore what's possible. We call it Project Starline. It's early and currently available in just a few of our offices, but we thought it'd be fun to give you a look at people experiencing it for the first time. Using high-resolution cameras and custom-built depth sensors, we capture your shape and appearance from multiple perspectives. And we have developed a breakthrough light field display that shows you the realistic representation of someone sitting right in front of you in 3 dimensions. By 2030, we aim to operate on carbon-free energy 24/7. And today I'm excited to announce we are the first company to implement carbon-intelligent load shifting across both time and place within our data center network. Investments like these are needed to get to 24/7 carbon-free energy. And it's happening right here in Mountain View too. We are building our new campus to the highest sustainability standards. Over the past year, we have seen how technology can be used to help billions of people through the most difficult of times. It's made us more committed than ever to our goal of building a more helpful Google for everyone. I hope to see you in person next year.
Take 2. Hi everyone. Maayong hapon, maayong aga, maayong gabi, or wherever you are in the world watching this. I'm Alisa Paglumutan, your host in this year's Google I/O Extended Bacolod live event brought to you by Google Developers Group Bacolod and Women Techmakers Bacolod. After weeks of building up excitement, finally we have come to this day. And nakita nyo man, as you have seen our speakers lineup, GDG Bacolod never let this pandemic be a hindrance, but took a step ahead to bring you all those quality talks that we have ever since the pre-pandemic. So to get yourselves ready for an afternoon of interesting talks, discussions, and especially exciting games. And without further ado, to formally welcome all of us, here's Dave Cello, the GDG Bacolod lead, for the opening remarks.
Welcome to I/O Extended 2021 Virtual Conference. As COVID-19 continues to spread, the tech industry continues to rise amidst adversities. Today, as we emerge to the modern age of technology, from organizing in-person events to virtual conferences, we continue to strive in providing meaningful, interesting, and exciting news in Google technologies. With various speakers that will talk about certain topics like web technologies and machine learning, to the 3 empowered women sharing the experiences in working in the industry, we hope that you will be inspired and will continue to support GDG Bacolod's future events.
Thank you, Dave. This event is truly an example of how we can rise amidst the to personally attend I/O Extended, but through the power of technology, we can still enjoy and get updated with Google. All thanks to the organizers for making this possible. So for those tuning with us, we highly encourage you to share IOX BCD21, GDG Bacolod, and WTM Bacolod. Let's make everyone's I/O experience fun and interactive. So to kick off our I/O Extended 2021, let me introduce you to our first speaker. He is a researcher who focuses on the field of human-computer interaction, working on a research in pedagogy and technology in interactive platforms on learning. He also volunteers his time and expertise to various organizations such as Google Developers Group Philippines, User Experience Philippines, Philippine Web Designers Organization, and ACM Special Interest Group on Computer-Human Interaction. His love for speed and performance as part of the design makes him love his mission per- to help others do performance-ready web apps and bake into them performance-ready patterns into their design toolset. He will be talking about improving your rank in the web through web performance. Let's welcome Tony Jan Keith Montserrat.
Hello, guys. So thank you very much for this opportunity to give a talk. I'm just going to test if anyone can hear me, and as usual, ito yung laging sinasabi natin agad pag may meeting o online. Anyone on the comments? Yep. Okay. So I guess you can see my screen. This is my talk about improving your rank through web performance. And so I'll start with some expectations. So the talk will be about patterned here. Page ranking, what has changed, why performance, case studies of improved performance, so that we can see if why performance is needed and how it will improve, let's say, your business or your even just traffic in your website, and things to do for your performance, and tools to use to check your performance. So let's go right into it. Now, page ranking. What has changed since the last time? Now, of course, still it uses content as basis. We need to have relevant content that people need to make sure your page would go up. But of course, when it comes to reading your pages, computers need to have readable code, and readable code, not readable code, but readable data. And that means when it comes to readable data, you need to have to make sure that there's a structured way of data there. Of course, when you're building your websites, you still need to use proper HTML to make sure that semantically it is readable, but there's also an addition of JSON plus LD, which is lightweight data in terms of making sure that your data is readable by the bots. Lastly, there is an addition of web performance as a factor on ranking. So it will be, as far as I know, it will be going live this coming June to August. So most of the websites that has been crawled will also have a web performance factor, and we need to be able to be ready at this one, because of course, as long as when it comes to web performance, it's going to be a factor on how you will be ranked on the page, on search results. So why performance? Why is it needed now? So let's look at this time to interactive setup where performance on both of the pages are really low. And as you can see here, it becomes really frustrating for the user if the performance of the website is slow. As you can see, yes, the content has shown, but the user cannot do anything until the page is interactive. And in with this kind of setup, even if you say, it's only 22 seconds, some people are, of course, we have a short attention span. And if we see like this, sometimes you just want to throw your phone away because it lags so much. So in terms of this situation where performance is equals or affects the web user experience. And if you have bad user experience, people will not go back to your website anymore, and you lose traffic, you lose customers, and you lose the potential to have people buying whatever it is on your website or reading whatever it is that you want to convey. So some case studies of improved performance, just to um, hammer to the point, hammering that we need to have good performance to have better user experience and in turn better business. So one case study is from Vodafone, which is in Italy. When it improved the largest contentful paint, so that means the website is full of content that you can see instead of just the first bit that has been shown. If it has improved the time of largest contentful paint by 31%, they have achieved 8% more sales. So as you can see here, I should have a laser pointer. Tada! So as you can see here, on the original page of the site is actually the same in terms of the, how do I say this, the look and feel of the website, but it is much faster to load this site than this site because of the optimized LCP. So there's a 50% better lead to visit rate. So that means a lot more people visited the site, and a lot more people have used the cart better because of the experience. And that means there's 8% more sales, which is a good win for the company. Now for iCook, okay, so there's like a double. I should have deleted that part. But improved cumulative layout shift. So cumulative layout shift is when you first load the website, you see the content, and then it shifts or abruptly maybe goes down or goes up because some images are uh, just have loaded. So it's really frustrating because you are already reading the content, and um, it shifts. So by improving the cumulative shift or layout shift, that means the the content doesn't shift anymore by 15%. It has achieved more ad revenue. So as you can see, the ad revenue goes up while the CLS went down, but it's still within the meh part. So that means there's still a need to improve their CLS. Now, Tokopedia improved largest contentful paint by 55% and so 23% better average session duration. So that means people stay longer on their website. So before it was 3.78 seconds for it to have a full good layout, but now it's 1.72 seconds. So there's like a 55% improvement, and the site is now usable, or at least the site's information is now readable so that people can actually interact with it, and it made a lot more people stay longer on their site. So other case studies are for GEDI, which is a news website, 77% CLS. So that means there's a reduction of the seconds before it becomes, there's a reduction on the shift of information, so that there's lesser bounce rate. So that means people stay longer, they don't go out of the website. For Lazada in Singapore, the largest contentful paint is lower the seconds is lower 3 times, that means there's a conversion rate of upwards in the mobile for 16.9%. And for Gyao, which is an entertainment company in Japan, again, it's 3.1 times reduction on LCP, while it made a click-through rate of 108%. So that's more of like 2 times. Yeah. So given that we already know that there are uh, benefits on the performance, what can we do? What are the things that we need to be mindful of? Of course, we need to learn how to use proper HTML. As you can see here, we don't want to like excessively add JavaScript on already working stuff. So if it's using anchor tags, it's better to just use href for links and not use any JavaScript for doing things. For button, it's better to use, of course, JavaScript, because button is used for interactivity within the page. And let's not go using span for anything that is interactive, because we already have excellent HTML tags for this one. For forms, we need to use forms because it allows the computer or the bot to know that this is something that we need to or the people will use to enter their information. As for like if you want to show or hide details, you can just use details instead of creating your own JavaScript CSS type of um, um, information where you can show and hide stuff. And then for lazy loading, the image tag already has an attribute called lazy, loading, where we can set to lazy. That means for if the image is not on screen yet, it doesn't need to be loaded until it shows on the screen. So as you can see below, lazy loading of images and iframes is already available on most of the web browsers except Safari, which is too bad. I don't know why Apple keeps messing things up. And of course, IE, please, if you know your users don't use IE, you can just drop it. So to um, lessen the development time. Then there's also picture tag, which allows you to load different images depending on the size of the media. So that means, and the size of your screen. So like on this part, you can have a landing large JPEG, which is if your screen is of desktop size, and this is for tablet size, and this is the default. So now you are also optimizing the speed of loading your images. Now only load what you need. So there's a critical rendering path where once your network has requested information, it goes to request first the HTML, and if there are CSS files that needs to be loaded, the CSS is also loaded at this point. And then lastly is the JavaScript. And as you can see, once the DOM and CSOM has been sort of parsed in the browser, then they render it, then layout, then paint. So anything that stops the DOM and CSOM from being parsed and produced on, processed in the render tree, then it stops the user from seeing your content. So we need to make sure that these two is loaded at your first load. so that the user can already see your content. So lazy load everything that you don't need right now. We have this PRPL pattern or purple pattern. Push for minimal code, which means your index.html and push and preload critical scripts if you need to. Then render the route to get the interactive. So this is of course for single page applications. Lazy load everything else if there's a need to lazy load anything, and then pre-cache your other scripts, images, and styles using service workers. Now, of course, for rendering and loading CSS JavaScript, there's a way to optimize it. This is one example of a not optimized situation where it gets first the HTML and starts building the DOM. If there is a link to CSS, like what's that again? A link tag where it needs to get the styles for your CSS. That means you do not put the styles on the HTML itself. It gets the CSS. It blocks the building of CSOM because it needs to get the CSS first. There's the response, and you build the CSOM. And if you have a JavaScript on your head, it gets the JavaScript first, stops the CSOM. Once the JavaScript has been returned, it runs the JavaScript and then continue the DOM and render the page. So that means there's a big chunk of here that is blocked. So one of the best ways is to know which parts. I'm using UPLB's, which is my university where I teach. I'm using it as an example here. There's the above the fold and below the fold. So you have to know which is above the fold and below the fold. And from here on out, you can put your styles in the above the fold as an internal style. And then use a script, a JavaScript, at the end of the body to add a link style to get the CSS for the below the fold. And then for other things, if people turned off your JavaScript, you can then just add this one if JS is off. So that means you can already see the content here because it is not being blocked. So what it does is it starts building the DOM and it starts building CSOM, and it renders the page because everything is in the body, and then it runs the JavaScript to continue building the CSOM later for the below the fold. So that is how you can work out a optimization on the largest contentful pane. Now, how to use image compressions. So this is a good table. If you have GIF, there's transparency, there's animation, and every browser is compatible. PNG is there's transparency, and then there is no animation. And then you have WebP, which is yes, and it only works on Chrome, Opera, Android. But this one, it has more compression, so that means it's lower in size than in JPEG. Of course, I also created my own decision tree. If your image is animated and it is long animation, you just use a streaming video. You don't need to use MP4 because loading an MP4 can be large. So you need to have a streaming video in it. If it's not a long animation, then GIF is better. Now, if it's not animated and it's not transparent and it's not high resolution, that means it doesn't need to be really, really, really big, then JPEG would suffice. Even if your image is as big as your desktop screen, JPEG would suffice because the size is smaller than using PNG 8 or PNG 24. If it's transparent, if it's still transparent, yes, and there are no colors, or I mean, there are less colors. You It's better to use SVG because it's first, it is scalable. That means if you put it in a larger size, the resolution is not sacrificed. But if there's really a lot of colors, and the colors is below 256, then you can use PNG 8 for better saving, and I mean lower size because of the compression than PNG 24. So the thing is, the last resort that you would need to go to is PNG 24 because this is really large images. Now, when doing complicated single page JavaScript powered web apps, you need to have an application shell that is loaded alongside your HTML. If it can be put inside the JavaScript, the script tag at the end of your body, that will be better. And then just load the content dynamically. Now, we can also consider using server-side rendering. So this is best for React, Preact, Angular, and Vue, which adds the hydration. So that means on the client side, if it's just only on the client side, you have this kind of situation where it's blank screen. But on the server side, if it's server side rendered, you can already see a bit of the information that is already server side, and then just load everything else. Now we can also keep your JavaScript size low and keep the main thread free, because JavaScript is a single threaded programming language. It means that if a function is running on your main thread, any interaction that you do is put at the end after the processing of that code or function has been done. So you will have a part where the uncanny valley, where you already have seen before, that the user cannot interact with your page until the hydration has been done, or that means the JavaScript has been done. So we need to make sure that the uncanny valley is really, really low, or else you have people getting frustrated because they feel that your website is lagging. This is an example from CNN.com, where for lower end cell phones, the site is 9 seconds lower, and for others that has like 4,000 pesos or 5,000 pesos below, I mean the price of the phone, it's 32 seconds longer, because the script took a lot more time to be processed before the layout and the information has been shown to the user. So as you can see here, again, the situation where the user is getting frustrated because the JavaScript is too big to be processed before the style, layout, paint, and composite has been done. Now, we go now to tools to use to check performance. So these are the things that you will be using to make sure that your site is performant. So we can use the performance budget. So performance budget calculator allows you to know how big should be your HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and images to make sure that you are under a specific budget. And you can also see estimated load times for a mobile 2G, 42.97 seconds for a given budget. So you'll already have some form of data to know if this is a good website or not. And then we can also use Chrome's DevTools Lighthouse, which you can audit your website and show you your performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO. You can also see information here how to improve your website. And then you can also use web.dev/measure, which also uses Lighthouse. So like why did I put senti.io instead of senti.ai on this one? And so this is like an example. And then what you can see here is the score. So I'm using a different website for this one, like a really bad website on this one. And then you can see like the performance and a list of things that you can improve your website and so on and so forth. You can also use webpagetest.org, which is allows you to also do the same testing on different parts of the globe to see what would be your test results. You can also test it on a mobile phone, on desktop, and so on and so forth. And there are mobile friendly tests, which is a page where you can put your website here and see if your website is mobile friendly. And lastly, you can use Google Search Console, where you can put your website's domain, and see the information of how many web search clicks has been done, what is the what is the information that is, or I mean, what are the keywords that were used to search for your website, and so on and so forth. So recap again, web performance affects web user experience. So if we want to have a good user experience, we need to improve our web performance because it affects the page ranking as well. Again, you can reach me through these channels, and thank you for listening to my talk. Yay!
Okay, good. Magandang hapon, Sir Tony John. So to start off with our Q&A, we would like to know first, what makes the website search engine friendly?
So it's the same thing that I've said before. Website search engine friendly means that your content is relevant to your people or audience that wants to search for information that is relevant to what you want to convey. And then the next is to make sure that it is also readable by computers. And lastly is, again, making sure that your site loads fast enough so that people have a good user experience. So, yeah.
And how does Google gather real-world performance data?
For this one, you can look at Almanac, Web Almanac for that one. You can also get the Chrome user experience data from BigQuery. So it's a bit more technical at this point, but you can always use BigQuery to gather real-world performance data. But in terms of like how Google gets it, of course, it gets it from our usage of Chrome browser and like information on how people are loading your website, how fast is it loading, and other information from, let's say, Lighthouse and their own bot itself, which is the Google bot, which is actually a Chrome browser. It gets information on how fast your website is loading.
Ooh, and does having video content affects website performance in terms of site speed?
Video content, it affects at least in terms of if it blocks your rendering of information. So as long as it is streaming, in essence, you don't need to load the whole video first before it shows up on the screen and so on and so forth. So like usually for people who are using videos as a background, um, if the video is really really big, um, and blocks the rendering of information, it affects the site speed. But if it's more of like it loads later on, um, then it doesn't really affect any much, as long as it makes your site still interactive. So yeah.
Yeah, and which meta tags matter in improving the web ranking?
Meta tags matter. So yeah, I should show. Wait, I should show my Medium page on this one because that's my cheat sheet. wait, wait a minute. So I'm just going to load my Medium page. Uh-huh. So I'm going to show my screen. Okay. So stories, then publish. Uh-huh. Where is it? There you are. So structuring HTML. So which are the things that matter? So you have your I hope you can see it. So you have your doc type. This one is needed. You have the HTML that has a language, the meta charset that also affects your meta name, which is for viewport. This is also needed for mobile friendly websites. This one, the title is needed. The meta name description of your website is also needed. For Facebook, this is needed. For Twitter, this is needed. And for the manifest, this is needed. Other things are more on making sure that there is an icon for if your website is installed on the mobile app. But essentially, you have the description and title, and you are already set. Yeah.
And lastly, which SEO factors are not in your control?
SEO factors that are not in your control would be how Google ranks your website. So that means they have this algorithm already installed on how truthful your content is, your how other pages gets your content or relates to your content, and even just the keyword matching. So the only thing that you need that is in your control is your website's performance, of course, and the content. So you just need to make sure that if people wants to have this kind of information, like how do I, like, let's say we ask this, which SEO factors are not in your control, you have to make sure that your content answers that question, because that is in your control. And even if you, let's say, put additional items there, as long as your content is not relevant enough, it will not show up on Google's search results.
So that concludes our Q&A. Thank you so much, Sir Tony John Montserrat, for this very insightful talk and for helping us understand on how important it is to consider web user experience and to improve your rank through web performance. It will be very helpful to those doing personal projects, to everyone having SEO in their works. So it's just the first talk, and it was already this exciting. So feel free to share your thoughts or what have you learned during the first talk. And don't forget to use our official hashtag IOXBCD21, GDG Bacolod, and WTM Bacolod. And this event will not be possible with the help of our sponsors, Arquicello, Feds Construction, iReply, Bitronics, and KeepUp.bcd. Without them, we couldn't have GDG Bacolod IO Extended 2021. And GDG event will never be a GDG event without prizes. To get a chance to win, all you have to do is to answer our event feedback form, which will be posted later. So hulat lang, and din kada mamate ka lang, ma-answer ka lang sa feedback form for like 5 minutes, and who knows, you will be winning. From the Philippines, we are going up north. Our next speaker is a Google developers expert for machine learning. He is one of the organizers at the TFUG, or TensorFlow User Group Korea. He is highly interested in GCP environment such as Vertex AI, GKE, App Engine, Cloud Function, BigQuery for deploying ML-powered application, and realizing MLOps. He'll be talking about Vertex AI as a new platform hosted on Google Cloud Platform, going through some of the features such as dataset, AutoML, pipeline, and the TensorFlow extended integration with Vertex AI. Our next speaker is a software engineer and researcher at Electronics Telecommunications Research Institute in Daejeon, South Korea. Let's hear it with Park Chan-sung.
Okay. Okay, here. Hi, everyone. So I am Chan-sung Park, and I'm from South Korea. And I'm a Google developers expert for machine learning. So today, I'm going to give a talk about Vertex AI, which was announced during the latest Google I/O event. So let's go through the slides that I have prepared for that. So here's the list of contents that I'm going to cover today. First, we need to understand that there are lots of people in the field of AI having different requirements, and it is hard to cover all of the needs. And second, let's look at what Vertex AI can do with a list of features. I mean, by looking at the list of features it provides and how it can be fit into the, people in the field of AI requirements. Then I want to zoom in two specific services in Vertex AI platform. One is AutoML and another one is pipeline. And both of them is pretty important for realizing MLOps for your products. Finally, I have worked on building a simple project to demonstrate continuous training pipeline in Vertex AI during the last week. So let me show you how I did it. So the first part, what is diverse environmental needs from ML practitioners? Just please forget about the role displayed in the image, but let's begin by imagining you are an app developer. As an app developer, you might not have data, but want to leverage AI for your application. And then in this case, you probably need pre-built-in AI service. For this, GCP offers Vision API, video intelligence, or natural language understanding, natural language translation, and time series forecasting, etc. And now, you are probably not satisfied with the current pre-built-in AI service. You have ran your apps for a couple of years, so you might have gathered pretty big data. Then what can you do with it? You have to build your own machine learning model to understand closer than the pre-built-in AI services. For this, GCP offers notebook service, which you can iteratively experiment for building the best appropriate model for your own business. And this is also a nice service if you're an ML researcher. ML researchers, they want to go over kind of similar experimentation over time a lot. Another scenario is that you have enough data, but you are lack of knowledge how to build your own ML model. Then GCP offers AutoML service that learns your data and automatically spits out the trained model, which is the best model for your your data. And you see, you can do many machine learning related jobs from top to bottom. However, there are more, like explainable AI to understand, to get more insights deeply of your trained model, and feature store to share the extracted most useful features across your organization or deployment, and etc. So the question is where the Vertex AI fits in out of these needs. Well, I would say Vertex AI is the all-in-one solution, except for pre-built-in solution. Just like I said, notebook service or deployment or some experimentation or pipelining, etc. So let's go a bit more details about Vertex AI. This is an official statement that I found from the Google slide that describes what Vertex AI is, and it pretty much shows you what it is. Vertex AI is a managed ML platform. Here, managed means you don't really have to care about the infrastructure under the hood. For example, if you want to train and deploy bigger model, the hardware infrastructure can be scaled in and out to meet your needs. So for every practitioner, to speed the rate of experimentation, so you don't really have to care about the underlying, infrastructure, like hardware infrastructure or software infrastructure. You just care about your own business or your research, which means you can speed up the rate of experimentation, right? And accelerate deployment of AI model. Because GCP already comes with a powerful infrastructure, for example, Google Kubernetes engine or just virtual machine infrastructure, GCP is already kind of ready platform for deploying your model. So if you don't really know how to deploy your model to accept and you don't know really how many users you're going to have in the future, you can just port your model into this GCP and it'll take care of the rest for you. So then that's kind of very abstract explanation of what Vertex AI is. Then let me go through what you can really do with the Vertex AI. The best way to understand the Vertex AI as a whole picture is to go through the entire life cycle of how an ML-powered product is deployed. It's pretty straightforward. Data injection, you need to get your own data and you have to prepare your data to be ready to be injected into your model for training or inference. Then you need feature engineering to extract useful features out of data, of course. Then training or hyperparameter tuning process to find the best model for your data is also required. Then serving the trained model plus evaluating the trained model to understand how your model really behaves. So that is also required. And after you have deployed your model, you have to monitor the deployed model to detect some performance degradation in order to decide make some decision whether you have to retrain your model or collect more data from the current period of time. Finally, you have to manage the model through version control. Well, this is not a source version control, but model or dataset version control. All these features are needed to realize the end-to-end ML-powered product. And so Vertex AI is capable of handling all of these things at one place. That's the key feature. So Vertex AI itself is not a single service. It's a combination of a lot of different services. But you can do those lot of services at one place. And let's see what it actually provides with the actual menus in the next slide. This is also very somewhat higher abstraction. So here's the actual menu that I screenshot from GCP console. Let's go through one by one. Datasets is where you can manage your dataset. But not only you can manage your dataset, you can also label dataset right in your browser. It comes with a nice tool for labeling for a lot of different types of datasets, such as image classification, object detection, natural language processing, or video intelligence. Or you can outsource labeling tasks to human labeler if you cannot take much time to do it on your own. And notebook service should be very familiar to you. It's just a pre-built-in Jupyter Lab service. But you don't need all the hassle to set up G-Cloud authentication to access other GCP services in order to access training or deployment or running pipeline runs. And pipeline is for realizing machine learning operation or machine learning pipelines. There are two ways that you can try. For much lower level control over the pipeline, you can try Kubeflow pipeline, or if you want high level control over the pipeline, you can try TFX, which is TensorFlow extended. And there are a lot more menus like experiments. Experiments is just hosting TensorBoard service to compare multiple experiments in one place. The logs are updated in real time, so you can just set the path for your logs in GCS, Google Cloud Storage service, and then TensorBoard hosted in the experiments will look up that logs with very small amount of interval, and it'll update the TensorBoard UI in real time. A model is just a model that it shows a list of models that trained on the dataset. But not just hosting, if you have the same model, same pipelining, the version of the model is also managed through this service. It's pretty important because you have trained a certain model and probably you are not satisfied with that. Probably you want to go back to the previous model. Then you have to have, like version control thing, right? So endpoints, next one is endpoints. So you can directly deploy your trained model in GCP. In this case, Kubernetes cluster is set under the hood. That means your deployed model can benefit from the power of Kubernetes scalability, no matter how many end users you will have in the future. So pretty much, I have showed you a list of services Vertex AI provides for you. But it's pretty important to understand with common workflow use cases. So I have prepared 2 common workflow use cases. So let me go through 2 basic common workflows, one for AutoML and the other one for pipelining. When you consider AutoML-based workflow for your ML-powered product, you need to know 3 things. First, you need to really understand and know how to prepare dataset and what kind of dataset is supported by AutoML. Second, you need to choose target environment. Since the model that AutoML finds can be infinitely large enough, you need to set some constraints when the training process should stop. One of the ways to set the constraints is to choose target environment. It can be, like cloud-based deployment, or you might want to deploy the model in IoT devices or mobile devices like Android or iPhone. Another option to set constraint is to configure the amount of budget that you can allow. So let's go through a very basic example here. So AutoML is not a universal tool despite its name, so be aware of that. AutoML is a very task-specific word to find the best model to suit your business goal. So you need to find out if your data can benefit AutoML capability. So this slide shows which types of data set is applicable to leverage AutoML. For image dataset, image classification for single label or multiple labels, and object detection, image segmentation tasks, those tasks are supported. And for tabular dataset, regression and simple classification task or time series forecasting tasks are supported. For text dataset, text classification for single or multiple labels or entity extraction to understand the conversation or sentiment analysis task to evaluate how users behave on your application or the movies or whatever product. Those kind of tasks are supported in the text dataset. For video dataset, video classification, video action recognition, video object tracking. Those tasks are supported. So here is an example how you can import your own dataset and label it for image classification. As you can see, the data is imported, like the images, and you can select multiple entities and you can just click the button, assign label. And in that way, you can label classes to the dataset directly right in your browser. Another example, this slide shows the other examples, how you can import your dataset and label it for object detection and object tracking. After completing data import, you can see a sort of distributions about how many labels there are per classes or some information about the dataset in Analyze tab. You can find if you need to collect more data in which category to be balanced enough. So the right-hand side of the Image shows you how you can actually tag information in the video timeline. Once your dataset is ready, the next step, there's a menu called Train New Model on the right sidebar. Remember, we are still in the dataset menu, meaning we can directly go through training the model in the dataset menu. After clicking the Train New Model button, there are 3 steps that you have to fill in. First, you have to choose the target environment. Second, you can either specify the environment with AutoML or ML Edge, or you can just upload your own handwritten model code to train the model. Like, it can be written in a TensorFlow or PyTorch or scikit-learn framework. In the second menu, it asks you how you might want to split the dataset. So please do that according to your intention. By the way, in this case, that you choose AutoML Edge. In the case that you choose AutoML Edge in the previous step, you get additional step called training options. It shows 3 trade-offs that you can choose from. It basically says that if you want higher accuracy, your model size and latencies are going to increase. So what do you want to do? Consider your environment is very important. Target environment. For microcontroller target environment, you might want to choose faster prediction option. But for IoT device environment with moderate, hardware spec, you might want to choose the middle one. For regular mobile device like, Android or iPhone, you probably want to choose the higher accuracy option because, they provide much higher spec of the hardware. And in the final step, you can specify the constraint how long you want to, let the AutoML learn the data. Unfortunately, this cannot be specified like how much money do you have, but the node hour. So be careful to set up this value after going through the official, going through the official documentation, how much it really cost per hour. So after training job is done, you will get some evaluation results. Evaluation metrics are shown depending on which AutoML task you tried. It lets you to understand better how your model actually does. Or you can try out different Vertex AI service, which is explainable AI, for more and better insights of the trained model. When it comes to deploy your model, there are a couple of options that you can try. For AutoML Edge, you can choose TF Lite Edge TPU equipped, like IoT device. And so for that TF Lite model, or you can build your own, Docker image for container and host it into the Google Cloud Registry Service and TensorFlow JS. And for regular AutoML, you can choose container or just hosting right into the GCP platform by clicking the deployment. So I hope the previous slide showed you pretty much how the workflow goes for building your own model using AutoML theme. Now let's move on to the next workflow with pipeline. In this section, I'll give talks about why we need machine learning pipeline, what is machine learning pipeline, and how you can leverage different Vertex AI services integrated into the pipeline, like AutoML. So why do we need machine learning pipeline? You might have heard about silent killer. And yes, the real-world dataset can be a silent killer for your model. Just take this. Data keeps changing no matter what, no matter if you want it or not. It's the nature of the data, right? And your best model only knows one single period of the snapshot of the dataset. It only knows one specific snapshot of the real world. And when real world moves to the future, your model doesn't know anything, knows nothing. So if you're not well prepared with monitoring, retraining based on the changed data, you'll never know if the performance of the model has been degraded or not. there are two popular terms for this machine learning pipeline thing. One is data drift. This happens in a short term. Maybe just distributional attribute of the data set can change, but the concept change cause much bigger problem. Like the picture of the banana in this slide is not banana any longer. So the actual concept has been replaced by something else. So in this case, in both of these cases, you have to be prepared to, retrain your model based on the change the data set. And you probably don't want to do the experimentation over and over again whenever data changes. You might want to, build some automated pipeline to be prepared for these situations. So, well, this is kind of end of script, so I'll be kind of slower to speak better. But here are some of the components that might consist of the machine learning pipeline. So this is the same, exactly the same that I have showed you to understand what kind of components we need to deploy ML-powered product. But take this, you don't write everything in a one package, but everything is kind of isolated. You can replace with the latest source code base or URD or something like that. So there are two kind of common scenario for this. For example, you get a new data set. Then some kind of event is triggered. So your data goes into the data extraction, data validation, or data preparation, model training, and all sort of that. And probably you're happy with the data set, new data set. But if you are not really happy with a newly trained model, you have to try with other state-of-the-art models. That means you have to write new code snippets for defining the model, or probably feature engineering code. So for that, we need continuous integration too. When continuous integration comes in, only the appropriate accordingly replaced by the newest source code, then the current data set is injected again. So the pipeline keeps running again to learn the best data set, to learn the best model for your data set. So the key component, the key concept for a machine learning pipeline model is you have to define everything in a modular manner, and you have to get some event triggering system for newly incoming data set. And also scalability is the key issue, because you don't really know how big your model is going to be in the future. Like, you probably don't want to spend a whole bunch of time by setting up more GPUs or more operating system configuration or something. So you can pretty much achieve everything in Vertex AI for this. There are two options for writing pipeline in Vertex AI. One for you can natively use Kubeflow pipeline, and another option is like a higher level wrapper for Kubeflow pipeline in a library, and that is TensorFlow Extended. Let me go through some of the key concepts that those provides. So Kubeflow pipeline allows writing lower level logics. You can just simply write a Python code, but the key idea behind Kubeflow pipeline is you can simply make container out of Python function. You don't really have to write your own Docker file. You don't have to create your own container by writing like Docker build image thing, but you just put some kind of decoration here, like decoration kfp.dsl, the component. Then when you compile your pipeline, the function with those decoration will be a container. So converting Python function into the container. And another key idea for Kubeflow pipeline is, like, if you deploy any application in Kubernetes, it doesn't really know the consequences that each container has to run in order. But the machine learning operation is a sequence of jobs. For example, data injection has to be done first before any feature engineering, and feature engineering has to be done before any training process. So it has to know the sequence of jobs, right? So Kubeflow pipeline helps letting you to do both of these. So there are quite a small handful of new statements provided by Kubeflow pipeline. Pretty easy. So you define a component, multiple components, for example, to realize these pipeline, each component corresponding to each pieces of pipeline, and you compile into one place which has to run first, which has to come later, and with the KFP DSL pipeline decoration. And you probably want to make, like, if your model is validated, for example, you don't want to get pixel value range out of 255, right? Then you want to control some condition statement, or you probably want to build two different models, one for cloud deployment, one for IoT device. In that case, you can connect one component like data injection and connect data injection with two different training process. But this process doesn't have to go in order. So you can control parallel processing, something like that, and compile the model. And if you run this Lana function, it spits out a kind of pipeline specification written in JSON format. And then when you have JSON format, you don't really have to go over running the pipeline in a Python script. Just throw that JSON into this create run from job specification, then it knows how to run the pipeline. So JSON file, the final output is pretty important to, unless you want to change the logics. So for example, only the data changes. You don't really have to, touch anything, any logics that you have defined through the component or pipeline. You just have to throw the same specification. You can also seamlessly integrate with AutoML dataset deployment features that is provided by Vertex AI. This slide shows you a list of services that you can leverage from Vertex AI. That it includes the AutoML thing that I have just explained before. So AutoML is great because you don't really know if your model is the best one. But AutoML is just the API that defined by protocol buffer. So if you just ask, I want to get the best model from AutoML, and we don't really know how Google is going to implement AutoML over time, but sure, they are going to replace the AutoML when they find better algorithms. So we just ask for the best model. When data changes, probably you will get the best model out of the current data set. And when you build up some pipeline, compile your pipeline, Vertex AI platform shows this nice, beautiful UI, how each tasks are chained together, and which process is running for now. And you can also inspect the logs kind of natively from the logger system provided by Google Cloud Platform. So this is like Kubeflow pipeline definition. And consider TensorFlow Extended as a higher level wrapper of Kubeflow pipeline plus more functionalities. Since this is a higher level abstraction, it should provide more functionality than lower, right? It comes with predefined components. This is kind of standard way to leverage TensorFlow Extended, TFX, to run the entire end-to-end, machine learning pipeline. Example Gen provides you to inject data. Statistic Gen provides you the way you can inspect your injected data set. And example validation, you set some of the constraint that your data set should have, for example, the range of values. And if your data does not meet the validation constraints, the further process is not going to be run. And you define feature engineering with transform component and trainer component, and you can run hyperparameter tuning, which is basically a higher level wrapper of the Keras tuner. And you can evaluate your own model because the trained model for this time might not good enough for, and probably the previous model is better. So you can compare two different models to evaluate if your model is better or not, to decide the currently trained model should be deployed. So Pusher lets you to deploy your model into Google Cloud Platform, or you can choose either of these options for TensorFlow JS or TensorFlow Lite, etc. So you can simply run this pipeline with the official documentation, and when you do that, you'll get some screens like this similar screenshot, because each of these are kind of very standard, right? There are just a few minor things you have to configure for running TensorFlow Extended. But good thing to know about what the status of TFX. By the time, as of yesterday, maybe, TensorFlow Extended, the 1.0 has been released, and it gives you the power of integrate with the Vertex AI fully. Before that, only the RC1 version was supported for Vertex AI. But here's a little nice thing to just note. You can run your own pipeline with TensorFlow Extended for Vertex AI pipeline. This is the same command before the Vertex AI era. But with Vertex AI, you have to specify project and region, because in the legacy AI platform, what you needed to do before running the pipeline was creating the Kubernetes cluster first, and the Kubernetes cluster has to be up and running all the time. You don't really know when to run it, but it has to be prepared. But with Vertex AI, it's like a serverless pipeline. You just ask for pipeline run, and when you request, it creates the Kubernetes cluster under the hood, and it just deletes all the resources for the pipeline after when the job is done. So you pay for what you have used for only. Pretty nice. I like that feature. Okay, that's just pipelining thing. So let me go through a simple pipeline example that I built for the last week. And I have leveraged Qflow pipeline with AutoML, training system. So I have one little daughter. She is 3 years old now. But I just wondered if AI can detect, her from the images of her when she was, an infant. And I thought this could be a very good example for machine learning operation. So I have collected, because a lot of parents take so many pictures of their babies. I had plenty of data set. So I just imported the data set right into the Vertex AI data set. And I labeled image right on the browser. I just prepared like 100 images or so. After preparing the dataset is done, what I did was just writing a simple pipeline. So the first block is for importing the dataset that I have imported through the Vertex AI dataset. And the second component is just run the AutoML training process for object detection. And third one, just these 3 lines of code is for deploying the trained model right into the GCP cloud platform. Very simple. And when I did that, I found it did pretty great job. But that was kind of unexpected result. It worked well on her pictures in the age of 3, even though I used the infant images. Kind of very strange, I felt. But when I tried different images, because of the pandemic, my daughter is wearing mask all the time. And when I throw the images of her on mask on her face, it did not recognize anything. It couldn't recognize well, since like with her friend, it recognized this guy as my daughter. And also same thing, or sometimes sunglasses plus mask, it doesn't recognize well. So I decided to move on to the next stage to build this entire pipeline better. So here are 4 steps I did. It's the same thing for Vertex AI dataset. I have labeled the dataset, but when you're labeling your dataset in Vertex AI, it automatically updates the metadata about the label and the connection between labels and the image itself in a JSON format. But I don't really want to trigger the pipeline whenever those working JSON file is updated. I just want to make sure after probably hundreds of images are done labeling, I just want to, run the entire pipeline. So I have, separated a working bucket and a final bucket. So after done with labeling, I just simply exported the annotation file into different bucket. And I have created a simple cloud function that listens to the changes of this bucket and find out if the changed file's extension is JSON, it reruns the pipeline. But as I have explained, the third step is already done through the notebook, like this one, building a pipeline and run the pipeline. I get the pipeline specification of file in JSON. So I have stored it somewhere in the separate bucket. So it references the buckets to find out the job specification, a pipeline specification, and knows how to run the pipeline. So combining these 2 different informations, we can actually run the same pipeline based on the changes, the event of changes of the data set. So for example, Now we don't have notebook thing because we don't need it anymore. I just need the JSON specification file here. And then when the new data comes in, I'll just label it accordingly, or you can just simply import a labeling data set, a labeling metadata if you already have it. But I didn't have it, so I have used the Vertex AI data toolset for labeling the new data. So after done with the labeling task, I have exported the labeling metadata thing to the final bucket, and that's it. Cloud Function listens to the changes and reruns the pipeline. It spits out the best model searched by the AutoML. So here's a just simple code snippet that you can use to build a Cloud Function listening to the changes of the event in the dataset, a bucket. Also, you can simply just monitor kind of simple monitoring of things like predictions per second, or prediction error percentage, or how many requests were processed by the seconds, or something like that. You can just find out, like my model is doing good or bad. Anyway, after doing, this auto triggering system, this is the images I have put additional images that I put after the infant images. So as you can notice, there are a lot of images with mask, and the result was remarkable because it knows her face of the age of 3, an infant image, also with mask. And all of these are done with not much money. For example, I always create a new Google Cloud Platform account, and it gives out a free credit, like $300. And and this is kind of secret tip, but whenever you create a new account, you get the $300 for 3 months for every account. And here's a very nice thing. AutoML is not limited to paid user. With a free credit, you can run AutoML. Okay. So by running pipelining AutoML training pipeline more than 5 to 6 times, the free $300 credit was not exhausted. So pretty good. I mean, if you're an app developer, you can just collect data set, you can build your model, you can deploy your model in the cloud, but you don't really have to. You can just get the model output file and you can just import it into your device. Probably you just want to have, train the model for one-time use, and then you just seize all the count building system. You're just good to go, right? So this is kind of a very good example for realizing machine learning operation. Probably I'm going to use it for when she grows up more and more, probably she is going to wear glasses. Maybe she is going to have different hairstyle, whatever. I cannot really imagine, just like I didn't expect the mask comes in because of the pandemic, like a few years ago. So this is pretty much what I can give you about Vertex AI. So here's a kind of quick but usually summary. Vertex AI platform is a kind of all-in-one solution that meets almost every data-related practitioner's needs, except for pre-built-in AI services. And Vertex AI AutoML train your own model without any expertise in modeling. Prepare the dataset, then AutoML will take care of the rest for you. And Vertex AI pipeline make your ML-powered production to be prepared for the nature of data and the concept drift. So thank you for listening to my talk. And you can find some useful resources in this link about Vertex AI, and you can find out my information at this ID of Twitter. And if you just simply message me, I can give you replies all the time very quickly. So thank you for listening.
Hello, Mr. Park Chan-sung. I hope you're doing well today. So, in the talk, you explained very clearly the difference of the old AI platform and the Vertex AI. So, our first question goes on, how do you train a model without collecting too much data?
Actually, as you have seen from my concrete example with my daughter, I have just collected like 150 images, and that's kind of very little data, right?
Yeah.
It takes just only maybe 1 hour, including a labeling task. I think there's a little data, and probably when people think we need a big data to train a machine learning model, they don't really know how transfer learning works. They just want to build up, their own trained model from scratch. But the reality is, there are a bunch of trained model that you can, train on top of the trained model with a very small data needs. So just search for what kind of trained models are available in the TensorFlow hub. If you are trying to leverage TensorFlow based in a customized model, or you can just simply do what I did with my daughter's data set using AutoML.
Yeah. And is it complicated when migrating your old models from AutoML or AI platforms to Vertex AI?
I don't really know because, but I just know there is one little nice menu that you can migrate your model from the legacy platform into the newer platform. So, but I would just want to point out the legacy AI platform, there were two legacy platforms, like AI Platform Unified. This part of its name is not really unified. Vertex AI itself is the truly unified AI platform. So when it came in during the event of Google I/O 2021, the AI Platform Unified was disappeared, and AI Platform itself is treated as a legacy platform by the time. So
and then does it require to learn two or more open sources platform like TensorFlow, PyTorch, etc. as a prerequisite in working with AR/ML?
It depends on who you are. If you're app developer, you can just leverage AutoML. But if you're like ML researcher or who wants to build your own model, or you can really, if you are a person who really cannot find the appropriate, trained model, pre-trained model, you have to go through the modeling task yourself, then probably you have to learn a lot of open sources, including TensorFlow, Pandas, PyTorch, or even scikit-learn to set the baseline. Well, there are a lot, so.
Yes. And lastly, for those who are interested to learn Vertex AI or the machine learning as a whole, where could they learn from this platform?
This is kind of very complex question because, as you know, cloud is very, very abstract. Well, everyone explains cloud is the solution for all. You can do everything, but when you collect the official documentation, it shows just a little. So you're probably confused how to really get started with it. So my recommendation is official documentation is not enough, but click every link that is referenced by the official documentation. You can really get into the real source code. And source code is not really complicated because it's not a kind of pure Python code, but it's just the API call to which is provided by Google via like protocol buffer. You just need to learn a little, but you have to face the fear that you are going to encounter some code bases you're not really familiar with. But you have to go through the GitHub code base and just search for the provide notebooks or real code base. That's the best way, I guess.
Okay, and we have here a last question from the audience. We have our audience here. They have their last question. So for our last question, not actually popping up here. Wait, I have to check with them.
Well,
There's this. What advice can you give to those who wanted to try machine learning and AI without any background from it?
My suggestion is, I found the course. You might heard of Fast AI. Fast AI is pretty, decent course for building ML powered product. But a lot of textbook, a lot of practical, technical book explains from the bottom side, like what you have to do with mathematics, or how neuron works, how the model really works, and that's kind of makes you feel exaggerated, not exaggerated, but feel very confused about how should I really integrate AI into my product. So you have to experience first the end-to-end process and how that can be fit into your product. And then you split the components of the machine learning pipeline a bit by bit, and you have to tackle the small handful amount of the specific task or component and move on to the next component and move on to the next component. I think that's the best way to learn AI. You can't really tackle every problem at one place. And probably as an app developer, you're not really familiar with mathematics. So I highly recommend to listen to Fast AI course and read the Fast AI book.
Okay, so that concludes our Q&A. And thank you so much, Mr. Park Chan-sung, for introducing us to Vertex AI. And this is truly a platform must explored by everyone doing ML, AI, data science projects. And speaking of projects, we will never get tired of saying that this event will not be possible with the help of our sponsors, Arcicelo, Feds Construction, iReply, Bitronics, and KeepUp.bcd. And again, we highly encourage you to share your thoughts, ideas, feelings, and even questions and some projects that you want to collab with others using Vertex AI. And don't forget to use our official hashtag IOXBCD21, GDG Bacolod, and WTM Bacolod. And grab the chance to win our limited swags as a prize by just answering our event feedback form, which was already posted in the comments. And please do answer it so that it would help us to make the next GDG IO experience better and for the future GDG Bacolod projects to come. The pandemic has brought a shift in our lives as we know it. But what comes next? Will our fast paced life pick up again? Will we continue to innovate regardless of the cost? Or has this pandemic sparked irrevocable changes? How will we live in the future after the pandemic? Now, this is not the question yet, but this is the constant struggle as we tech professionals and the tech industry as a whole is facing right now. Hi, welcome to Women Techmakers Farside Chat, where three empowered women in technology will be joining us today to share their experiences and thoughts on the current situation that tech industry and employees are experiencing. To start with, for our first panelist worked as a software developer for years and experienced different technology from Microsoft SharePoint and Silverlight custom development, working on C language, and now as a full stack developer for multi-tenant cloud-based ERP solutions. She's a software engineer at Infor PSSC. Join me in welcoming our first panelist, Eliza Española Lizardo. Hello, Eliza. Hi.
Hi, Eliza. I
Hi.
hope you can hear me. Hi,
Yeah.
everyone. Great to be here. Thank you, GDG Bacolod team, for inviting me, and I'm so excited for the panel discussion later on. But for now, let me hand you over again back to Eliza. See you in a bit, everyone.
Our second panelist is a physicist and economist in training who worked in the energy industry. Outside of work, she enjoys cooking, baking, and loves to take long drives. Born and raised in Manila, but loves cooking Ilonggo foods, influenced by her dad who's from Bacolod. She speaks Hiligaynon and little of Bicolano, and often interchanges the two languages. She currently works as a data scientist and the head of special projects at Senti AI, the pioneering AI company in the Philippines and always our Google partner. Let's say hi to Ria Isabella Flora. Hi, Ria.
Hi everyone! Thank you, Google Bacolod, for having us. And I'm really excited for this talk. So yeah, I'm excited to meet everyone.
And finally, from the Philippines, we're flying to East Asia. Last but not the least, our last panelist is a machine learning engineer working in the domain of conversational AI and knowledge logistics at Boomtown, SA. She is the Women Techmakers Ambassador, scholar and lead at Google Developers Group Lahore, and Global Undergraduate Exchange Program alumni from University of Incarnate Word in Texas, USA. Her hobbies during this pandemic includes watching shows on Netflix and sketching portraits. And without further ado, let's welcome our last panelist, Ramsha Siddiqui from Pakistan.
Hi guys.
Hello, Ramsha.
So nice to be here. Really excited for the talk. Assalamu alaikum from Pakistan. I hope you're having a good day. And yeah, back to you, Alyssa.
Okay, so as we all start, so hello again, ladies. I hope you are all doing fine. Just ignore our cute cat in my background. Because she's kind of also interested in this Fireside job. So to start with, our first question. In industries from healthcare, education, finance, and manufacturing, the pandemic has forced companies to use technology to reimagine nearly every facet of their operations. So can you think of any post-COVID tech trends, such as in AI, ML, or smart things? So starting with you, Eliza.
Hi again. So I think one of the industries that really boomed during the pandemic is e-commerce. And if I can think of any post-COVID tech trend that will continue on after COVID, I think it will come from e-commerce. And one of the tech trends that I actually discovered a few months ago is the virtual dressing room. I do not know if you're familiar with that, but I came across that because I was browsing through this retail website and I got curious about this virtual dressing room. So I did a bit of research about it. And apparently it uses augmented reality or AI to create these 3D models of shoppers that they get to scan using their camera. And with the use of that 3D model, the shopper can actually put the clothes in that 3D model and get to see how the clothes will look like in them. So I think that's a very cool technology and will continue on post-COVID because I think the buyers or the shoppers will see the convenience that it brings to the shopping realm, if I may say. And yeah, I think that's one of the post-COVID trends that I really think would continue on.
Okay, and next, Ria.
Aside from coming at it from a consumer point of view, you could also see the trends in terms of operations on how businesses work. So one of the biggest trend right now is document processing using machine vision and automating that end-to-end processing of paperwork. So right now we see that you could already process your bank accounts through an app and could also verify your identification and even your legal documents all through just one application. So moving forward, that is something that is here to stay. It's not just because of the pandemic, but I believe that it's something that we could see in the future, that we are now minimizing paperworks and putting everything on digital. So that's how businesses are now optimizing their operations, especially given the work from home setup. So document processing, computer vision, even natural language understanding in really processing these documents is something that we would see moving forward, and it's here to stay. Yes.
Yeah. And Ramsha.
For me as a developer, I think one of the big trends that I saw during COVID that I'm now realizing would also be required afterwards is online collaboration tools and tools that allow you to have meetings. So recently my old office opened up and we had these really important meetings that we were supposed to have with each other in person. So we all came to the office, but then halfway through the meeting, we realized that we need to record this. So we turned on Microsoft Teams and we started recording it like we used to in COVID. And yeah, we realized that recording was something that was not a trend before, and you didn't even need it. But nowadays, you want to go back to the recorded meetings and take notes or meeting minutes. Another thing that was very common for all of us was using collaboration tools. So if we were on another person's desktop and he's stuck on something, he would share his screen, and then you could edit on his on his tool like PyCharm or whatever. And now these tools have their own built-in collaboration options, so you don't even need to do it through Microsoft Teams or Slack or anything. It's just building up in many different tools. So I feel like this will continue after COVID as well, because we're used to it now.
Yeah, it's like the new normal nowadays. And next question. The tech industry, perhaps surprisingly, was largely unprepared for remote working. Companies have had to learn how to communicate online and find ways in which working apart. So the question is remote working helping or deterring us from keeping a great team on board? And should tech companies continue giving work from home privileges? So to start with Ria.
All right. So I have mixed feelings when it comes to work from home. Because when you say tech companies, we are often referred to as service providers to other industries like, let's say, banking and finance or manufacturing. And these industries that we cater to may not necessarily be ready to be fully migrated to work from home. So, in that regard, especially if they're handling proprietary data that often they're not are on premise, it working from home is deteriorating their productivity because they would have to have so much access points, security checks just to access the information that they need to function. No? But if you are a digitally native company, you've been into e-commerce, you've been in digital marketing ever since before the pandemic, it's really easy for you to migrate yourselves into a work from home setup. So I guess what I'm coming at here is that it depends where your company is, and it's there's no one answer to this because even if the pandemic has been for so long, we're still not homogeneous on where we are standing right now in terms of adjusting. So, and a lot of companies right now are still opting for on premise, and it's understandable given privacy and all of that. But on productivity, I believe that it is more productive, especially if you're the type of employee who knows your own work schedule and manages your time wisely. So it's kind of a mix of everything, but it starts off by understanding where you are as a company and as an organization.
Yeah, and next Ramsha.
I agree with Ria. At our company, it's kind of, well, at my last job, we were in a financial firm. So working from home was really difficult because all of the data would be on production, and we couldn't access it. But at my new job, it's not that big of a problem. So I definitely recommend companies to keep on offering work from home because it is useful for people, especially for me. Like I don't think before COVID I would have been able to have a remote job in San Francisco because of the timing issues and because companies don't trust like so far away. How will you finish your job on time and communicate? But nowadays, like it's a thing now. People are getting the opportunity of doing jobs remotely from like different areas, and it's opened up like this huge stream of opportunities for us. So definitely for companies keep on working from home. And then also in terms of data, I do understand Ria's the problem that she mentioned that like maintaining and protecting data, that's definitely one of the hurdles that companies will have to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and Eliza.
I'm actually quite surprised with what Ria and Ramsha were saying a while ago because I've been really working in a tech company and we've been practicing work from home even prior to the pandemic, because we also have teammates that are not from the Philippines. Some of them are in the US, some of them are in the UK. So it's sort of like practicing the work from home setup already because we're not in the same location. So in terms of the concern with security, it wasn't really that big of a deal for us, or wasn't really considered. Maybe because we are a tech company already, we are a tech industry, or we really, it's secured already. The company made sure of that already. But so to the question, if remote working is helping us, I think yes. Because in the 1 year and 4 months that we have been working from home, I think it really helped us in terms of convenience and the safety that it provides. And I really do think that the companies should still keep on giving the work from home privileges, especially there are people from our team or from my team who have went back to their provinces to take care of their parents, because obviously some of them have lost some loved ones because of the pandemic. So to have that option is really a big deal for employees, I guess, moving forward, even after COVID.
Yeah, and next, during this pandemic, as we all said, we shifted almost every aspect of our lives into online, and we now rely more on our mobile and even in our laptops for applications for reasons such as first, contact tracing, essentials, and now with our work, especially with the meetings. Given the amount of confidential data being generated, cybersecurity risks are likely to rise as a result of more people working remotely. So the question is, our cybersecurity mindset sufficient? And what security measure should be made to protect our data? So to start with Ramsha.
I think that yeah, especially at my last job working in finance, if you have access to like a customer's card data set, or like, yeah, his bank account information, it's very important that you access that information from a secure network. But we were all accessing it from our local networks, and yeah, there were a lot of encryptions in between. We had two-factor authentication and things like that. I still believe there were some major security risks that were forcing our company at first to force everyone to come to the office because you cannot access this data from home. And it took like 2 months for them to set up something for us to access remotely. But in terms of cybersecurity, I still think that it was open to hacks, because when you're accessing from a local network, even with authentication, it is possible for hackers to get into your system, steal people's data, their money. It was really something frightening that a lot of people, even though it's not our data, we were still frightened for our customers. So in terms of that, I think we're still not there. I would say that our cybersecurity mindset is still not as sufficient as it needs to be. But I don't work in the domain, so I can't really say how we can improve that. Maybe someone in cybersecurity could comment better.
Yeah. And Eliza?
Regarding this one, I think our system are already in the cloud. So I think the cloud service provider is the one taking care of the security of our resources. In terms of our mindset, I think our company is doing their best effort to make sure that we know how to handle our customers' data. While as a developer, we really do not handle customer data firsthand, because we usually do use like dummy data that the business analysts or the product owners provide to us, and we just develop features, so it's not really straight from the customer type of data. But apart from that, I think one of the means that my company do to make sure that we are in line with the security is they always give us these trainings, sort of, that will tell us what are the things that we need to remember when handling a customer data, connection to the VPN, of course. What else? I think, I think a lot of it would have to do with the trainings that my company gives me in terms of the mindset for security.
Yeah. Andrea?
I would start off by building on what Ramsha mentioned, that there are companies that are still very reluctant, and you would see that these are the companies that are not necessarily tech companies by nature, but yeah, in terms of their mindset, I believe in through the experiences that we've had working with similar companies, it really boils down to making them understand what are the security measures that we have in place for them, to feel a bit secure when migrating to cloud or to using cloud services, because essentially these companies or these people have been working in local or on premise for the longest time, and it's been working for them. So the question is, why do something else that if it's already working for us? So it's making them understand what's the added layer of security that migrating it to cloud would provide to them, or the accessibility that they could actually gain from migrating. So, on a personal basis, I see that again, as Eliza mentioned, using your VPNs, two-factor authentications, and even using your password manager. Um, but really, on a personal basis, I believe that it's that mindfulness of refreshing your passwords all the time, and because it's something that we really tend to forget. It's as simple as typing your password every day, but we tend to forget that okay, we have to refresh it every month, or try to at least achieve a regular update on it. So yeah, that's everything in my mind.
And next, as we emerge from the new normal situation, should tech companies embrace the standardization of flexible Yeah, we have our first question. I think it was answered already on the shift workload from on-premises local hosting to the cloud. It was inserted earlier. And now, as we emerge from the new normal situation, should tech companies embrace the standardization of flexible working schedules? So to start off with Eliza.
Yes. In my case, at least, I really think, at least in our industry, I really think that standard flexible working schedule would really work. Especially as what I've said earlier, we do have teammates that are working not here in the Philippines who are working in different time zone than us. Though, so when we have that flexible working schedule option, we will be able to manage our time wisely. Like if, for example, in the morning here in the Philippines, we'd like to deal with some personal stuff, we'd like to take care of your family or do some groceries or whatever it is that you have in mind. And then in the evening, since you need to talk to somebody who is in the US, for example, you can have real-time conversations with them. I know that sometimes, email will be enough, but sometimes you really just want to talk to them and, do some presentation on how you're doing how you're fixing your environment, or you just really want to have that feedback from them in a real-time manner. So having that flexible working schedule really gives some autonomy to the employees as to how they will manage and how they will make use of their time to be productive, not just in their personal life, but also in their work.
Yeah, and next with Ramsha.
Yeah, the same as Eliza. I work in the evening, so if I follow the US schedule, it will be from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m., which originally I was following because I'm up till 3 a.m. anyways. But still, these days I'm more like have my meetings before 12 a.m., and then I go to sleep, and then in the morning I finish the rest of my work because it's more comfortable for me to do all my chores and then start working. So it really helps me out, and if I can meet everyone on their schedule for meetings, then there's really no point of me working within work hours on a laptop, like it's remote. So definitely I recommend all companies to keep their working hour schedule flexible, because people might actually work more if they're not following a certain time schedule. At least that's what the case is for me.
Yeah. And Ria.
I definitely agree with everything that they mentioned, most especially because we were used to an 8 or 9 hour day shift before, and in those 9 hours, how many hours have we actually spent working? Like we would have days extending to 10 hours, but we would have days that we we barely used 5 hours to work. So given the flexible working schedule, it lets us insert that level of flexibility that, okay, I could work 5 hours today, but at least because that's the maximum of the workload that I have. But then tomorrow, if I have to render more hours, that's okay because I've spent most of my time today, doing other things like my personal errands or stuff like that. And I guess it's really important to understand that working from home mixes your personal life and your professional life. So that level of flexibility is very important to keep that balance because you can't expect to cook lunch within that 1 hour break period. That's just impossible, especially if you're managing other people in your household. So definitely flexible working schedule is optimal for everyone, as I've experienced also with my work.
And now we have two questions from our audience. First one is that how effective it is for the fresh grads in applying for tech jobs considering the constraints like virtual trainings and the like. So to start with Eliza.
That's a very interesting question because when I started my job, you're not doing virtual trainings. But as you go along in your professional life, you will realize that you're actually going to have to train yourself virtually because there are trainings available online that you should be taking in order for you to refresh your memory and your learnings as well, because technology is continuously evolving. Like, for example, the speaker a while ago, he mentioned about the new AI. I just forgot the name, but what I'm really trying to say is that it's still effective to apply online or apply your job, even if you're just a fresh graduate. Don't be scared about it because everyone really goes through that. And there are companies who really look for fresh grads. There are even companies who do internships for people who are about to graduate. So you don't need to worry if you're just learning things online, because in the tech industry, you really need to learn things online. You don't need a classroom to learn things. You just have to dedicate your time and your resources to learn new languages, learn new languages, learn new trends in the tech industry, and you'll do yours. Don't worry about it. You'll get through it. You'll get a job.
Yeah. And next, Ria.
Tech is ever evolving. Like, look, if you could actually look at GCP 2020 versus GCP right now, a lot has been added. If you go at AWS, it's the same thing. So that constant initiative to update yourself is very necessary. But if you're afraid of looking for where to start, I believe every student has tried to access Stack Overflow. And, like starting as a programmer, everybody has tried looking for codes at Stack Overflow. And, in that same process of you trying to learn the syntax, trying to debug your code, that's the same thing with trying to understand how to form, an optimal architecture, or trying to understand what's the best fit solution for this use case. So there's no one perfect way of learning tech right now. It's all, learning by doing. So I believe there are a lot of free platforms that you could actually access to get information. But if it's certifications and formal trainings, I believe Google has their own set of training modules. Also, you could access Coursera and other platforms that actually have student pricing. So while you're still a student, you could access those pricings for yourselves. So, and at the end of the day, there's YouTube. You could actually learn from YouTube as well. So there's really a lot right out there for you to just access and maximize. I wouldn't say don't limit yourself ever on just one platform in learning. So that's.
And Ramsha.
So if it's about like virtual trainings at tech jobs, I remember when our new joiners just joined during the pandemic. It was really hard to do our introductions and all of our trainings one by one for all of them. So what we did was we compiled a bunch of pre-recorded meetings or videos beforehand, and then just gave it to them. And based on their feedback, it was difficult to learn things from a video. I think when you're learning from someone in person, maybe it's a bit easier, but with time you do get used to it, especially for fresh grads. I think it might be easier because in this era, especially, they've graduated during the pandemic, with online learning and online resources. So hopefully they're used to it. Can't really comment more.
And we have actually many questions from our audience. So next is it practical to shift career amidst pandemic? So to start with Ramsha.
I did that, but I think before, like at the very start of COVID, there was a lot of news of like people being let go. So at that time, it was really scary to even think about shifting your career. Everyone was just praying, please don't let my company go broke, because I really like this job and I don't want to look for another one. But as time went by, there were new companies that were emerging a lot, and some of those old companies even they realized that, hey, we have lots of stuff to do, and they started opening up remote jobs and new roles. So and during the pandemic, it was
next Eliza.
Oh, all right. I think Ramshaw haven't finished yet.
That's
okay. All right. In my case, all right. In my case, I think you should think twice, many times before trying to shift your career in between the pandemic, because there are a lot of uncertainties already. Although there are a lot of job postings, recruiters are also very choosy when it comes to the candidates that they take. So if you really are decided to change career paths or in the middle of the pandemic, try to review your options, try to list the pros and cons just for you to have an idea of what to expect. And if you're really not sure, take a breather, take a leave. You can still take sick leave or scheduled leave is what we call it in the in our world, or even vacation leave. You can do that even if you just stay at home and not go anywhere else. As long as you're not doing anything, you just have to take some time for yourself, some time to breathe in and time to relax. So think before shifting career during this pandemic.
Next, Ria.
All right. So I guess the moment that you're considering shifting career, you've actually tried to look around, and the best advice that I heard from other people in terms of shifting careers is try to look at the job postings for that job and look at the skills that recruiters are actually looking for, and try to build on those skills before you make any decision. So, the joke around is you're more hireable when you're employed than when you're unemployed. So agree with Eliza. Take a time off, but build on those skill sets. And if you're looking to get into tech, portfolio projects, update your GitHub and do a lot of use cases just to showcase what are the skills that not just in terms of programming or like making your own software, but also in the analysis part, because that's also one of the things that recruiters are looking at. So it's a balance of the hard skills and also the soft skills, if I may say. But at the end of the day, the first step really is to match what you have, what are the skills that you have with what the recruiters are looking for right now. So do spend time on researching on that, and then building on your skill sets for it before you make any move, because maybe along the way you realize it's not for you, or maybe along the way you realize that you should focus more on something before you get into any other applications, because a lot of the applications right now actually require exams. So you can't go jumping into something if you're not really that well equipped for it. So yeah, that's all I have for you.
And next, we have our another question from the audience. How would you imagine your career after the pandemic? So we start with Ramsha.
I think because I'm working remotely, my job isn't really being affected by the pandemic, as in it will still remain a remote job after.
And Eliza?
Likewise, my job is not really that affected with the pandemic, so I might have to remain with my job maybe another year. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think I'll stick with what I have right now.
And Ria?
I actually don't see going back to the office, like I like working from home. I like my flexible schedule.
Yeah.
So I cannot imagine going through the same rigor of commuting and everything. But career wise, a lot more opportunities. Hopefully the economy picks up, and there's more opportunities for IT industries to actually get into the competition. So yeah.
Yeah. And next, we have our another question from the audience. So this is very long. Working from home gives us the privilege to do personal things like cooking, fixing things, etc. However, working from home is also quite challenging to some of us since we are easily distracted by the things around us. This is very true. And the question is, how do you think can we minimize being distracted and finish our task on time? So to start with Eliza.
Create a schedule. That for me works. And stick to that schedule. Like for example, this is the time that I wake up. Don't snooze that that alarm. This is the time that I wake up. I need to wake up at this time. I need to cook for 30 minutes. I need to prepare for my breakfast, and then I'll do my work for 30 minutes. Or 30 minutes. No, I mean like 2 hours or 3 hours before I prepare for lunch. By creating that schedule and by sticking with that schedule, I think is the only way for you to separate your time between doing your chores and doing what's needed of you for your job. Because if you don't, well, in my case, sometimes I don't stick to my schedule, so I extend up until 10 p.m. or maybe more, because I think that tech industries are really what do you call this, deliverable driven. That's a handful of words, but our performance is being measured by the things that we get to deliver, right? So yeah, if I don't get to finish a certain ticket for the day, it gives me that anxiety. But yeah, stick to that schedule. Create a schedule and stick to that schedule.
Yeah. And Ria?
I would say create a to-do list. So aside from sticking to your schedule, do identify the tasks that you have to complete by the end of the day, so that in that way you keep yourself on check whether or not you've actually accomplished anything in the middle of the day. I actually started the pandemic without a schedule, so I would wake up at 10 and then I would extend up to 3 a.m. because I was enjoying the flexible schedule. But at the end of the day, I realized half of the time I was trying to find time to do my personal errands alongside with my work. So what helped for me was, again, as Eliza mentioned, was sticking to a schedule, but ultimately identifying the tasks that I have to accomplish, because in that way, once I have accomplished everything, I know it's time to rest. I put a hard stop on that, because if you just keep accumulating your own personal tickets, if I may say, burnout would really catch up to you, and that's easily acquired given the pandemic and the work from home setup. So yeah, do identify your hard stop for the day, so that you also give yourself a breather so that you won't get burnt out.
Yeah. And Ramsha?
Um, if you're talking about like as a developer, for me, I get very easily distracted. But what I do is if you have like a task that's assigned to you, let's say on Jira, what really helps is breaking that task into subtasks. And then it depends on the kind of person you are. Either you'd want to do the easier tasks first or the difficult ones. I want to do the difficult ones first, and then the easier ones are the ones that usually take very long because I just don't want to get to them. But yeah, that's how it. At least I start something, and then yeah, once you start doing it, sometimes if you're bored, you might do the easier tasks alongside it, even though you didn't plan it. And then another thing that really helps me is just having daily meetings with like a coworker or maybe your manager or something like a little scrum where you can mention what tasks you've done and then also discuss and show to them like this is the things that I've done, these are the ones that are remaining, and that gives you a sort of push or yeah a little kick that hey, you should finish this rest of the task as well, and like how soon will you finish it. The way that it works for me is that because I do the difficult things first, the only thing that's remaining for them to review are the easier things, and then I can't give long ETAs for the easier things. So then I'm forced to finish the easier ones after.
And next, we have another question from the audience. Have you experienced doing a unicorn jobs as a developer? So to explain to those who just encountered this term, unicorn job descriptions are mystical too, but in a more wicked witch of the west sort of way. Unicorn job descriptions often include overly specific skill sets or unclear job requirements that can exclude or discourage perfectly qualified applicants. So to start with Ria.
All right. So I actually entered my company as a data scientist, but then again, I went on a more management role. So I came as a data scientist, and then I got exposed to marketing, sales, and then right now I have a lot of tasks handling HR and hiring cloud engineers and all of that. So yes, a unicorn job. I believe that's how I'm working right now, and I believe it also goes with how tech companies are usually flat by nature. So a lot of cross-functional tasks, a lot of cross-functional exposures. So you may be a developer, but if you're developing something that's more of a digital marketing software, of course you would need marketers to counter check if it's making sense to them, if it's something that's useful to them. You kind of have that UAT internally. So I believe it's something innate to being a tech practitioner.
Yeah. And Ramsha?
Yeah, same. I'd say that my last job was a data scientist job, and that's what they were advertising. And when I joined, it wasn't specifically data science. It was a very niche domain of like conversational AI. And then even in that, we had to do a lot of annotations. I was put in charge sort of as a lead or sort of a managerial role. And as a job description, even for I think the current jobs that we have on the website, they're still pretty vague. They don't mention all the things that you'll be responsible of, or all the knowledge that is required from you. And sometimes it comes out in interviews. Sometimes it comes out after you join, and then people are like, "Hey, this isn't what I signed up for." But that happens.
And Eliza?
I had this experience with the first company that I worked on. I was a fresh grad at that time, and obviously I had no idea of what the tech industry is and the work there is. So I was I had to handle different types of technologies that I had no idea about because it was an outsourcing company. So it was hard, but as I agreed with what they said earlier, that as a developer, there is really the chance for you to shift from different job roles compared to the ones that you applied.
And next question from the audience. We realized during pandemic that technology is actually our ally rather than a distractor. So, do you think there would be a volume of career shifts after pandemic? So, starting off with Ria.
Yes, definitely. Before it's not just because we are now on the digital space, but also because people who are not necessarily within that tech pool within a company are actually utilizing tools that used to be just confined within tech or developers. So for example, you during the pandemic, even actually before the pandemic, we've seen how digital marketing has boomed, and even more so currently. So the shift there is that from a traditional marketing practitioner, you're now shifting to understanding how do you do Google Analytics? How do I understand my ROI given all of this digital footprints that I have? How do I optimize content management? So these are not necessarily things that you focus on in business school. You may even say that they're very tech related, but there's that shift. So the shift is people are now required to use tools that may be techy. I can't find the perfect word before if they may say so, but that's the shift. That's how the pandemic changed working for everybody else.
And Eliza.
Yes, I agree with what Priya has to say, especially because everyone saw the relevance of data and what it can do, what it can do to influence the decision of every businesses. So a lot of people are already turning into reading, as what Ria said, the stuff that they get in Google Analytics or like Facebook ads and how the analytics, the algorithm that goes into that, how that will change how they market their product, their customer response, and all that stuff. So yes, I really do think that there would be a volume of career change.
Yeah. And Ramsha.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Ria and Alyssa said. Also, I think that during the pandemic, there was a lot of advertising of like online courses, especially in tech. And I think people also took them. I took them. Like, yeah, you had a lot of time, and then, yeah, people were learning continuously. I think my brother took some in like C++ programming, and he's studying business. So but still like all of the kids were doing it, so they were just taking it on as a challenge. Like it's easy to learn, you're sitting at home, it hardly costs anything. So yeah, it was really I think because of that trend, what happened was that a lot of people got interested in tech, and then yeah, hopefully after the pandemic they might pursue it as a job, as a career. Yeah, let's see.
And another question from the audience, which they are actually really listening right now. What was the biggest project you are most proud of, and what was your contribution? So to start with Ramsha.
My biggest project was at my last job. We were supposed to build a call evaluation system, and it was supposed to work in a way that we get call audios from customer service representatives and customers. And what we were supposed to do is analyze them using natural language processing. Yeah, analyze their transcripts and find out the intentions of the customer as well as the agents, and yeah, figure out things like, was the agent rude to the customer? Did he follow policy and procedure correctly? Did he do something that's like fraud or against the law? And yeah, what was the customer asking for? Was his query satisfied? Yeah, things like that. That project was almost completed. I would say it was like 70% completed before I left, because there's a lot of elements to it. And yeah, it took us 2 years. It's probably going to take us 4 years to finish it, but yeah, it was something that I'm really proud of, and yeah, I really miss working on it. But I would definitely say it was my biggest contribution to everything.
And next, Ria.
I would say it's not a development project, but more of a research project that I did for my company.
Okay,
We
so
tried, yeah. We actually did a research on how well do industries and businesses in particular understand AI. Because, given the pandemic, everybody's like, I need data, I need data science, I need AI. But then
yeah.
again, you look at their data, it's still on paper, it's still scanned, it's still on premise, it's still siloed. So the question that we wanted to understand is, what's the understanding of people when it comes to AI? How ready are businesses actually to adapt to AI? And surprisingly, the things that they enumerated to be needed in establishing AI is very not intuitive, if I may say. Number one, everybody's not just looking at the tech, but they need that ethical grounds when it comes to AI. They also need, a set of legal protection, if I may say, when it comes to processing data, when it comes to using AI. So stuff that us as tech developers don't necessarily focus on. These are the things that businesses are actually looking at. Aside from, the optimization, the cost savings, and everything.
Yeah, and Eliza?
On my end, I think one of the biggest project that I was able to work on is the contribution with the dynamic enterprise performance management product of our company. It's basically a product that is being used by businesses to see their financial status and their budgeting and how they plan it and their workflows. So yeah, I think that's it for me.
And next question. So this is like a follow up. So if you have a given chance to edit your favorite project, what would it be? So we start with Eliza.
Honestly, as a web developer, I haven't really thought of that much. But maybe if I would be given the chance to work in the AI development of a part of our company, that would be very interesting. As some of the women here with me are really more into that. So it would be quite nice to be exposed to that. I would love that, but for now,
Yeah.
I couldn't think of any.
Yeah. Next, Rapsha.
I think there were some issues at my. So as I mentioned before, that my last job was more like a unicorn job. So people were hired on the basis of just data science, but then they were given different roles. So some of our senior roles, they didn't have a clear image or idea of like how to lead the project. In terms of like what the database structure should be, what things we should prioritize first, and what things we should do later on. So what happened was that initially we worked a lot on like having very little data, but creating models and like just delivering these huge huge solutions that aren't really based on data, but more on a small sample of the data, and then just our assumptions applied to it. And then afterwards, we started looking into the data and found out, hey, some of our trends, they don't really match what we were seeing before in our small subsample. So I think one of the things that I would edit it is the way that we started it. The strategy should always be look at all of your data and then try and optimize. Just even if you implement like a simple implementation of a model that generalizes over the whole population, that works. I know that early deliveries are a huge factor in most companies, that they want to deploy models faster. You can deploy them faster, but like get the data first. And that's one thing I would change.
Yeah. And next, with Ria.
Actually, this might come off very simply, but if there's something I would want to change, it would be extending the timeline. Like a lot of projects are actually, we want to do more, but given the timeline, there's really no way that we could give 40 hours a day if there's just 24 hours. But for example, there's this project that we actually have to get data from the internet and scrape this data, of course, with their permission. But what we didn't foresee, and the timeline was set for 1 month because essentially this is something automated, right? Like scraping data is very, very fast. And but then again, what we didn't foresee was that the site that we were handling had different developers who worked on it. So we encountered some pages that had really what my teammates term was Jurassic in terms of HTML codes and CSS. So the cleaning part took more than half of the month. So how could you deliver something and build a model on top of something if you only have 1 week to develop it? So yeah, timeline. And I guess all developers have this problem. It's a constant negotiation with your project manager trying to extend a bit even just for a day or two.
All right. So there's another question right here. When you stuck in coding, what do you usually do as a developer? Like, what's our diversion when we have that coder's block, for example? So, what do you girls do if that's an issue or that happens? Yes.
All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
Back in grad school, our school was actually behind a mall in beside a park. So whenever we're just stuck in a program, I just leave my laptop on and I go for a walk. I usually an hour or two just to clear my mind because being stuck on the screen for so long, you're only focused on one thing. So it usually helps. A lot of my friends actually go with us when we take those walks.
Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. How about you, Nang Lies?
Is it me?
Yes, yes.
Well, aside from taking a break, like what you said, I think you can really go to Google. If you're stuck with coding and you don't know what to do, aside from asking your teammates on how to do some stuff, go to Google. There are a lot of resources there. It comes really handy.
Yes, yes. Okay. How about you, Ramj?
Yeah, the same as they mentioned. Plus, one of the things that I used to do was we used to have a whiteboard at the office, and I would just go to the whiteboard and draw out the problem, and then ask everyone. Yeah, either I draw out the problem or waste time a little bit, but then afterwards, ask my seniors or my coworkers to like help me out with this. And what I found is that when you discuss the problem with like other people of the same domain knowledge, you do come up with the solution, even if it's like a hack or a temporary fix. You do come up with some way to fix the problem, and then it remains in the back of everyone's mind. So sometimes when you're discussing it, it doesn't get solved immediately, and you're halfway implementing a hacky solution, but then someone or either yourself will come up with a better solution, and then you can improve on it. But just start doing something at random, and hopefully you won't be stuck anymore.
Okay. Would you like to take over, Lies?
No, we could okay. But we could also do it like, especially we are all women in college.
Yes.
Women here. So we have here the next question.
Okay.
Okay. This really is something that will train your mind. So hypothetically, if you're the employer and you have an applicant that graduated from a virtual training or classes, will you still consider that applicant, or would you rather choose an applicant that graduated traditionally? So we start with Eliza.
Honestly, I still would consider the applicant that was trained virtually compared to the ones that was trained traditionally or graduated traditionally, just because if that person who graduated virtually made use of all the resources that's available to him or her to keep on to learn what it is that she needs to learn to get the job done of what you require of her to do, then go ahead and hire her. It doesn't really matter. It what matters is the attitude really of the person that you're hiring. That's one, because you need to see if there's that potential in them to grow and to learn. What else? Yeah, I think I think that's all. I think so. Yes, I still would consider that applicant very much.
Yeah. Next, we have here Ramsha.
So I used to do interviews or like final interviews of applicants that were coming at into our team, and I didn't really look at where they graduated from or whether they took trainings or online classes. What mattered most to me was the projects that they mentioned, and then how they would describe them. Like just ask them how they did their project. They should be very descriptive about it if they did it themselves, like how did they clean the data, what was their pre-processing feature engineering process, why did they select a model, what features did they use. If they've done it themselves, they would be very descriptive about it, and you can ask them questions, they will answer it. If they had someone else to do it, or if they just finished assignments of a course that was pre-done, you would find that they wouldn't know much about it, and that's where you can get them. So either you graduate from a university or from an online class, it matters what you learned. And if you've learned something that matches the job description, you should get hired, hopefully.
And lastly, we have Ria.
I definitely agree with everything that they said. To me, what matters is not aside from the projects that they've done in, their display of in-depth understanding of what they've done, as Ramshad mentioned. It's also about the tools that they've used. So what I noticed is that those who have graduated from university don't necessarily have, that extensive exposure to cloud services as to those who have learned online, because a lot of the online courses actually use cloud services on the get-go. So that's one big advantage that they have. But then again, if you look at their understanding of which models are appropriate for certain types of data, that's the edge of those who actually took degrees in the university to actually understand the mathematics, or the appropriateness of models when it comes to data. So it has its pros and cons. At the end of the day, the best fit candidate for me would be one that is knowledgeable of the tasks to be assigned to them. So not just the tools, but also familiar with the agile environment and have displayed excellence in terms of the projects that they've done. So again, get your portfolio done, fix up your GitHub, because that's really something that breaks the grounds between university graduates and online graduates. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is our last question, and this question is really good. So here it is asked: how would you encourage young generation, especially the girls, to be interested in STEM? So, what's your opinion about this one, and your thoughts? Okay.
So we'll start with Ramsha.
So I would say doing sessions like this is definitely a form of encouragement. I think just existing at my last workplace, there were like 25 guys and like just 2 girls in the office. But I think having just one other girl at the office really gave me the confidence, like, hey, there are girls working in this field. And yeah, it just really boosts your confidence to see another girl in the workplace. So for me, just existing and yeah, I think just existing in the workplace where a majority is men is kind of encouraging, because other girls see that, like, hey, I won't be the only girl working here. There are other girls here pursuing this field, even though it's very niche. Other than that, yeah, do sessions. I usually do speaker sessions, or like a very small talks on what conversational AI is or how chatbot work. And hopefully that's helping women yeah, get into this field. Aside from that, it really falls on educational institutions to do better, like yeah, highlight your women that are graduating in STEM, and yeah, that will if hopefully help other women who are starting their career in universities, or yeah, trying to get in, to see you as an example and like be like, hey, this girl did it, I think I can do it too. Yeah.
Next, we have Eliza.
I think I would probably tell them that there are a lot of women already who are successful in this field, and that it doesn't matter if you're a woman, you just have to do your best, and you can do it. It doesn't matter if you're a woman in this field, really. I haven't, at least in my case, I haven't experienced any discrimination because I'm a woman. And I've seen, as what I've said, I've seen a lot of women really succeed in this field. And it's a very interesting field, actually. And it's one of those industries that are that will really be part of the future. So if you want to be somebody who will do some contribution or will get involved in what the future has to offer, then get into this program. Yeah.
Next, we have
Yes.
Irene.
I really agree with Nang Lies, because one of our women developers academy, it was said there that in order for you to be seen, first you need to be visible. So you need to step up. You don't need to feel like you are a minority, even though that you are. So you just overcome that one. As they said, like you just go out, you just expose yourself. You will never know what can you reach, what can you do, and what are the things that you can discover even in yourself. So girls, just be exposed and
Yourself, yeah.
show yourself. Yes. Okay.
And lastly, we have Ria.
I'd say that you don't, remind little girls that they don't have to sacrifice their personality to fit into a certain career. You could still be you could still be that it girl who likes to doll up and still work in tech, You could still be that tomboyish girl but work in a creative field of marketing or advertising. So it boils down to your capacity, to your skills, and that your personality is just a cherry on top, if I may say. And the visibility of women in tech is not just in tech but also in STEM is very important, because essentially people have this notion that women in STEM are nerds, those big glasses and like just hugs their books and everything. But in fact, there are girls who just, likes to party, likes to doll up and do yoga or something. But it's about reminding little girls that you could be yourself and still see that see yourself somewhere else, that your personality isn't a hindrance but actually may actually be your hidden power or something, like your strength essentially.
Okay, so we have here our next question for micromanagement. So for micromanagement, Micromanagement is currently being observed as most employees have been working at the comfort of their home. So, what are your thoughts about this? So, we start with Ramsha.
Yeah, I think when the pandemic started, there was a bit of micromanagement. Like, we would have very early morning scrubs every day, and it would just be like, "What are you going to do today? What did you do yesterday?" It lasted. I mean, we were okay with it for like 1 month, 2 months, but it stepped into like 6 months. It was really like, please stop asking us. We're doing it. So then we reduced our frequency to like twice a week, and yeah, that was really helpful. But in the beginning, everyone was really worried that people are not working from home, that they're just on vacation or something. And hopefully, this has improved now. That like people trust others to work from home now. So hopefully, this isn't a case for other companies anymore. But who knows?
Yeah. And next we have from Ria.
I guess this is where productivity tools really helped us. So having your whole team visible in, let's say, a Kanban board and seeing the cards move is something that really helps managers see how productive their teams are without having to personally chat them every hour. Okay, have you done this? Have you filed this? So yeah, that's one big advantage of the different productivity tools that we have right now. But in terms of micromanaging unproductive team members or those who have been lagging behind, as long as it is something that has been communicated well and that the person understands why they are being closely monitored, I understand. It's completely understandable, I suppose. But let's just remind ourselves that they're also in the same pandemic that everybody else is in, and that maybe productivity, as we mentioned, is not just the hours but really the output they've rendered. So it's a to me it's a matter of communicating the feedback. That feedback loop is very important. So that's why agile teams have thrived through the whole pandemic, because we've been working this way even before. So yeah, if you're in an agile environment, I believe that micromanaging is something that you could really avoid, and just as long as if it's really necessary, if it's really really the last choice. Yeah.
Yeah. And next with Eliza.
I have to agree with everything that they've said, especially because we are also practicing agile development. We do have Scrum of Scrums, we do sprint planning, sprint reviews, which again, another way for the managers to know whether their employees are working or not, if they're being able to deliver or not. I would also like to think that prior to the start of the project, the deliverables are already being defined. So at least the employees will already have an idea of what is expected of them. So and in that sense, the manager, can sort of check on them by the end of the sprint, by the end of the release, if they were really able to do what they're expected to. They don't really have to check on their employees. And of course, as what Avria said, there are a lot of productivity tools that they can use. They don't have to micromanage their employees.
And next, so this is like the Miss Universe question. So this and the parting words. Lastly, so much has happened to us in the course of the year, when we emerge from this crisis. So, what positive change do you foresee happening in the tech industry in general? So, first candidate Ramsha.
Yeah, the most positive thing would definitely be remote hiring. Yeah, remote working. That's really been accessible to like older employees who have like they have kids at home. Yeah, they have like a whole household to run. Can very easily do it without the commute or like being away from home. It's been really easy for people who are working from abroad and who can be in the same office as everyone else, and people who can work in their own flexible timings. All these things I think are very good. Like COVID was bad, sure, but these things were really great. And yeah, I'm kind of glad. Not really, but yeah, maybe 20% glad of COVID.
Yeah. And next, Eliza.
I think that because of the pandemic, a lot of industries have seen what tech can do to help them provide with the solutions. So, after everything that has happened, I think tech will continue playing a big role when it comes to AI, cloud, data science, and all that stuff, because you really need the solutions that the tech industry provides. So there is really a bright future, and there are a lot of opportunities for the tech industry going after or moving after COVID-19.
Yeah. And last candidate, Miss Ria.
Just building on what Eliza mentioned, we actually gained footing as a whole tech industry. We're not anymore service providers. We're not no longer, that niche group in a company, but rather a need. So now everybody has seen how tech is very important to all businesses to understand and really to embrace. And that also shows to the professionals. The thing that the pandemic brought out in everyone is actually upskilling. Everybody upskilled. You could see everybody posting their certifications online in the different
Yeah.
classes that they've taken. So as a professional, competition has increased in the job market, but also the knowledge base and the skill set that everybody has to put onto the table is very, very diverse right now. So yeah, and also very tech related. So as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. And so that concludes our Q&A, our fireside chat. Thank you so much to our three empowered women, Eliza, Miss Ria, and Miss Ramsha Siddiqui, for sharing your thoughts and ideas on how we'll be moving forward in tech after this momentarily pause due to the pandemic. And it was so inspiring to see women of color being represented in tech. And thank you so much for having this opportunity to talk with us with GDG Bacolod. And again, we couldn't emphasize more than this event that we really need to have women in tech now for visibility, especially that we want to challenge the gender diversity gap.
All right,
And
thanks
now,
guys.
yeah, bye. Yeah.
Bye,
And
everyone.
Bye.
and we couldn't emphasize more than this event will not be possible with the help of our sponsors, Arquicello, Feds Construction, iReply, Vitronics, and KeepUp.bcd. Feel free to share on what's on your mind, such as feelings of excitement and especially the recently concluded Fireside Chat. And don't forget to use the hashtag IOXBCD21, GDG Bacolod, and WTM Bacolod. And also, grab the chance to win our limited swags as our prize by just answering our event feedback form, which was shown earlier and also was posted in our comments. This would help us make the next GDG IO experience better.
Be strong. We're back. So now we are going to proceed to our quiz. And we are going to win some prizes, especially the Xiaomi smartwatch. So please join us and
Please join us with the link joinmyquiz.com and enter the code 213037. Also, please use your full name in entering the quiz.
okay, so we will be waiting for some players. Okay.
Okay, all right. Sige guys,
All right,
join ka
we
mo.
have
We will.
Jaspel. All right. Yes. Okay, don't be shy. Okay, we have Kay, Mark, Katarina. Hello, welcome to our event.
Please use your full name with last name so we can easily identify the winners later.
Yes, because we are going to post the winner also. Okay, there's Eliza.
Join na ka mo guys.
Okay, hi Ron. Maybe you want to add your last name. Welcome, welcome. So Dave, what's again our prizes for this game?
So first prize, our winner will be receiving a Xiaomi Watch Lite, a Keep Cup,
Uh-huh.
and a 500 worth of GC of your choice. So it's either you want to receive Lazada, Shopee,
Wow.
GrabFood, or Food Panda.
Can I join Dave? I wanted
No.
that smartwatch. Hello, Nico Nitro.
Nitro.
Nitro. Did I pronounce
Yeah.
it correctly?
Yeah.
Katarina Urbano.
So we
Right,
highly
have
encourage of
nice
using
day.
your full name for us to identify
Yes.
later the winners and easy for us to communicate.
So enter the game code 213037 and the link is joinmyquiz.com. Right? So we have 10 players. Joshua, welcome. And then there's RV, hello. Who else? There's John Joseph, hello. Are you ready to win the smart watch? Hi, Rojan Piano.
Piano.
Piano. I'm really bad at names. Okay, I guess
We're
should we
still.
start or we
Let's
wait
start
for
at
two more?
4:25.
Alright, so sa mga nanonood dyan.
Kayo na kayo sa Wawawin.
Yes. May para.
Okay, 1 minute left and we will start the game.
Uh-huh. Okay. Imagine just
Let's
answering
start.
some questions.
Let's start.
All right. So,
How many GDG chapters in the Philippines? You can answer now.
5. Okay, we have 6 out of 14.
You will be scored based on the speed of your answer
Yes.
and
Answer faster.
how correct
You
is your
have
answer
a greater
is.
chance. Right. 4 more. How many chapters?
How many chapters in the Philippines?
Right. We have 15 players.
Yep.
Right. There's 4, 5. Okay. Right. Roll. Katarina. I wonder how many GDG chapters.
Okay.
All right.
Since
Let's reveal. Okay.
all right.
Yay! So the correct answer is
8. There's 8 chapters in the Philippines.
yay!
Okay, next question.
Congratulations. Next question.
Tony Jan Keith Montserrat's a good developer of which Google technology? Here's our speaker earlier.
Our first speaker.
Is he GDE of Flutter, Web Technologies, Android, or IoT? If you happen to listen to his talk earlier.
Web. What else? What's the choice?
Okay.
Mark. Choose an answer.
Let's wait for some.
All right. All right. Let's
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Ending the question with our leaderboard.
Yes, it's web technologies. Wow, it's great to see that they actually listen to our talk.
First speaker.
Yes.
Okay, next
All
question.
right. Third question. Okay, what is the name of the latest research of Google that allows users and computers to exchange dialogues and conversations? What's our choices? All right. First, is it Vertex AI, Kotlin, Lambda, or Google Assistant? Go! Right? Mark, Roll, who else? Okay. Ray Ken. Oh, it's Raymond. Okay, let's see the answer. Okay. So, what's the answer?
Answer is Lambda.
Lambda. Okay. So, what's our current points?
Later we'll see the leaderboard.
Okay.
Later.
Okay, next question.
What does Lambda stand for? What does Lambda stands for?
Lambda. Okay. Let's wait for another
Okay,
player.
more answers?
Yes. Okay. Roll. Chow. What's the meaning of lambda?
What is the meaning of Lambda? Okay, let's end the question since the others won't be answering already. So Lambda, okay, leaderboard. Still, Eliza on the lead and Joshua. So Lambda is language model for dialogue applications. That is what Sundar Pichai had
Now we know.
announced earlier on the IO conference. Next. Park Chan-sung, our speaker earlier, is what developer expert of Google technology.
She is actually our speaker from South Korea. That was also a great talk.
Okay, any more participants?
Kay, Katarina, Ross, Rai, Cha-Cha, Raycan. Okay, maybe we should proceed.
Okay.
All right. So we have a tight fight.
Okay, next question.
What is the latest ML platform that was introduced during the I/O? So ML stands for machine learning. Okay. Right, 5 more. What is the latest ML platform
What is the
that was
latest?
introduced during I/O?
It was the talk of Park Chan-sung earlier.
Yes.
Okay, let's see, I guess all of us have already answered. Let's end the question.
Okay, so we have Eliza
On the lead.
still leading. So it was Vertex AI. All right, next question. Who is the Google's CEO? All right,
Sino ang CEO ng Google?
i-google ba natin kung sino ang CEO? Is it Lawrence Page, Sergey Brin, Larry Page, or Sundar Pichai? He's the CEO of Google.
Google CEO.
All right.
So Google CEO Sundar Pichai.
Okay. So
It's Sundar Pichai.
good to know that they know
Yeah.
the CEO of Google. All right. Next question. How many panel speakers during our WTM fireside chat? We've had a great topic earlier. It was very interactive. Okay.
So let's proceed to the next.
Oh, we have a tie. All right.
Okay,
Yes, we have three panels. Lang. Okay, next question.
Which month does Google I/O being held? So there's a difference with Google I/O and I/O extended. So which month does Google I/O is being celebrated? So is it in April, May, June, or July? So again, there is a big difference with Google I/O and I/O extended. All right, I guess everyone have key in their answers. So it is on May every year. Leaderboard. Still, Alisa on the lead. Next question.
Okay, you did not read it. What is the name of the Google's headquarters? Wow, everyone wants that to be this. But what is the name of Google's headquarters? Some answers coming up.
Google headquarters. Okay, we still have 12 people who have key in their answers. So it's in Googleplex.
Oh, we have a tie.
Alisa still on the lead.
Googleplex. Nice.
It's in Googleplex. Okay. Next question is, I think, related to where Googleplex is. Yeah. In which city is Googleplex located? So all of the choices are in California. So, but which city in California? Mountain View, Los Angeles, San Diego, or Santa Monica?
Okay, let's try.
Let's wait for others to answer.
What was the first prize again?
Smartwatch Lite.
Wow.
Okay. So Googleplex is located on Mountain View, California. So, Marhaba is on the lead now.
A new.
Leading.
Yes.
Okay, next question.
Next question. Which of the following is not a Google developer tool? TensorFlow, Firebase, Swift, or Material Design?
Which is not a Google developer tool.
Is it Firebase, TensorFlow, Swift, Material Design?
Okay, I guess everyone have already answered. So the answer is Swift. Swift is for iOS. Okay, next. Oh, at least.
We have a tie.
Which?
All right. Next question. Which of the following is not a founder of Google?
So
What's our choices?
Earlier question was, who is the founder of Google? Now, who is not? Who is the CEO of Google was the question earlier. Now, who is the
Who is not?
Who is not the founder of Google? Okay, 11 participants have answered already. Let's end this question. Leaderboard. Mm. Okay, so Sundar Pichai is only the CEO, but Sergey Brin and Larry Page are the founder of Google. What is the original name of the search engine before it was changed to Google? So, actually, lately ko lang ni siya nabalaan.
I am yet to know it.
Yep. So, we are all well versed now with Google
Yeah.
already. So, we don't have any idea again what is the search engine.
What is the original name of the search engine before it was changed to Google? So that's different.
Is it Backrub, Google, Alphabet, or none of the above? Okay. So the correct answer was Backrub before it was changed to Google by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. So Backrub siya before names and search engine. Now I know.
Yes, we have a triple tie.
So what is the brand of Google's phone product?
Oh. Google phone product.
Okay. I think everyone have answered. So the answer is Pixel.
Pixel. Okay. How many questions left? Two more.
Two more questions.
We have a tie. All right. What is the parent company of Google? Only now. Completed their answer. Let's wait a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's end the question. Ooh,
Oh, we still have.
just by Mark Habay and Rai. So
Yes.
Alphabet Incorporated is the correct,
Yes.
the parent
So-
company of Google.
And we are down to our
Last question.
Okay. So, what is our event's official hashtag? Okay, we have a tie. And we are down to our last question.
What is our event's official hashtag?
Google I/O about BCP 2021 I/O.
Sinoyhan magadaog sa aton nangyari low. Let's end the question. So our official hashtag is IOXtend.
Oh, we have a tie.
IOX21. IOXBCD21. Okay. So that concludes our event.
And we have a tie.
No, we don't have a tie.
No.
Isa lang po yung watch na bigay ng sponsor. So, isa lang talaga yung mananalo. Let's wait for the leaderboard. Okay. So, Jaspel, as first, you'll be winning the smartwatch. And then Mark Habay will receiving the Keep Cup, and RV Manyo will get RV is actually one of our members, so we will give it to Rai. Rai will be receiving a 500 worth of GC.
Okay, so congratulations, Jaspel, Mark,
Okay,
and
Jaspel and Rai, since we don't have any idea of your last names, please message us on Google Developers Group Bacolod so that we could arrange with the shipping of the only Jaspel. Rai, please email us your email address, message us your email address and contact number for the gift certificate. And then Jaspel, please message us on Google Developers Group Bacolod page also, so we can arrange shipping of the smartwatch. And also Mark Habay. Congratulations, everyone.
Congrats.
So that concludes our Game Kanaba event.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Congratulations to the winners.
Yay.
And the next event on DevFest, we could have more
Yes, maybe we can give
bigger
away
prizes.
laptops,
Demand.
smartphones.
At least we could have bigger prizes on our next event.
Yes, panawagan po
All
sa
right.
sponsors.
So please message us on our page so we can arrange all the things for you to receive the prizes.
Yes.
Thank you,
Here's our
everyone.
page.
Thank you so much for our Game Masters for making this event more lively, and also congratulations to the lucky winners. And speaking of winning, the event feedback form link is now posted earlier and also in the comments. So please check Google Developers Group Bacolod for the feedback form. And by tomorrow, 3 p.m., 3 winners will be drawn. So stay tuned. And before we end our IO Extended Bacolod, we would like to thank our dearest sponsors and event partners who have supported us for this event. Arquicello, Feds Construction, Bitronics, iReply, and KeepUp.bcd. Our event won't be as successful without you by our side. And also, huge thank you for our speakers for giving us these wonderful talks, which made our Saturday afternoon fruitful and productive. And now, as we come close to the end, to draw these curtains, let's call on our WTM ambassador, Daireen Hanagap, to part us with her closing remarks.
On behalf of GDG Bacolod, we sincerely thank all of our speakers, sponsors, and event partners for all of your contributions in making this event possible. And to those who joined us today, thank you all so much for supporting our community, and we hope to see you again soon on our next event.
you.